Hi, my camera stopped working. I don't know why it stopped working, but it's working again now. Oh dear. You caught me all like unawares. I didn't even know I was going to be coming online. I just sort of just you know, was having a little drink or just wanted to fiddle with my computer, and I'm online again. Can you believe it? I've got so much to say, and my mind's all just like overclouded with all these ideas that are just like over like. I need to calm down and relax. You know what? I'm going to stay on for this video, just so you know, right? I'm probably going to stay online for like hours and hours, so I get all this stuff off my chest. Probably going to eat some cheese and drink a bottle of wine. Take up loads of your time. Oh dear. I've just got shitloads to say. I just need to calm down and relax and just try and remember it all. It's just like impossible at the moment because I'm on the spot now. I'm live. It feels like I'm live. The cameras are on. I'm trying to make videos for ages. Just like I was giving up. I was thinking maybe I need to just get a new computer or something. And now it's just for no obvious reason at all. It's like my camera's back online. I haven't touched anything. I haven't changed anything. For months it wouldn't work. Or a couple of months, however long it is before I made the last video, it wouldn't work. Now it's back online again for no reason at all. So I'm not prepared at all, but I don't want to lose this opportunity to make a video. So it's going to be long, so I can think of something useful to say. I'm sure I've got a couple of things. I just try to remember what they were. That's all it is. I'll probably think of loads of things to say, actually, thinking about it when I get around to it. So, tobacco, that would help. That's bound to help. Yeah. Oh, about the Datura. I thought they might have maybe stopped my videos because of the Datura video that I made. So I took it offline. Maybe that's helped. You know what people like, these YouTube people are like, and that, oh, you make a video about something they don't like, and they could just try to slap your wrist a bit, you know. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I took it offline after a couple of weeks. After I realised like I couldn't make videos after I made that video about Datura, I thought, well, maybe I should take it offline. So I took it offline and I just waited, and apparently that's been enough. You know, they've got, it makes me believe they've got a lot more control than you're supposed to believe they've got. You know, if they want to stop you making videos, they can just stop you making videos. And there's not really anything you can do about it. That's what it seems like to me. I don't know. It's just how it appears. It's probably coincidence. Robert Anton Wilson quote, it's coincidence. You know, what else could it be? Anyway, I'm still finishing my Datura. It's like I've been smoking it with everything that I've been smoking. I just put it with everything, a little tiny little bit. It's only medicinal. What it is Datura is a delirium. It makes you delirious if you consume large amounts of it, and it can kill you. You know, it's a poison. So, but Hippocrates said that the poison is the dose, is the remedy is the food. You know, so it's all a matter of dosage. So what happens if you're taking a poison? Say, for example, deadly nightshade. It's another similar plant in the same family as Datura, the nightshade family. if you take a very small amount, your body is like a pendulum. It shifts in the other direction. So if you take a delirium like Datura in very small amounts, your body's going to shift in the other direction. So you'll be less than delirium. You'll be less than delirious. You'll be in the other direction. So you'll be more together. You're more stable. But only if you use it in very, very small amounts. If you use it in large amounts, you'll become delirious and you'll probably die. So if you're going to use something like this, it's obviously you've got to use very, very small amounts, you know. So you're using microdoses to use your body to shift the other direction. So that's how you use poisons as medicines. You use very, very tiny amounts. So for example, if you're going to use deadly nightshade, a very, very small amount, almost like a homeopathic dose, would help you to feel more alive, because in large doses it will kill you. So in a very, very tiny dose, I mean really, really, like smoking a very, very tiny bit of dried leaf, about, you know, a milligram of dried leaf, you know, like a thousandth of a gram, a couple of thousandths of a gram, you know, a very, very small amount. So like a pinhead, like that, in a cigarette, it probably make you feel more alive. That's how these things work. Doctors won't tell you that though, you know, because like there's a lot of these things that are really useful that can make your life a lot better, and they cost next to nothing. And of course, they'd rather give you drugs from the doctor, from the pharmaceutical establishment. Okay, well, I'm just going to keep this video going because I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember those things. I've got to remember them. Okay, my friend Tristan, right? Well, I say he's my friend. He's not really my friend because I noticed, like, because I hadn't seen him for a long time, and I saw him a few months ago, and you know, we got together a few times for chats and stuff, and then I realised what he was eating was just full of sugar. He was eating he was having like all these biscuits with sugar in, and I'd already told him about wheat, you know, and how, you know, it's really bad for you, for most people. And I'll give him a few supplements because I've got loads of supplements. I get stuff that I'm going to throw away if I don't use it all. So I gave him a few supplements and stuff. But then I noticed that he was eating loads of sugar. I hope you don't watch this video because it's going to make him sound bad. But the point is, I've had this problem for most of my life as well. Candida overgrowth, Candida yeast overgrowth in your gut, and it just uses. It's like it's literally like a demonic possession. It's a demonic fucking possession. No, it really is. It's like a demonic possession, and so I saw a video a few months ago, a year or two ago, and there's this demonology book that goes back like hundreds of years, and It's hundreds of years before we developed microscopes. So it's an exact representation of a candida yeast. It's exactly the same, you know. It's exactly the fucking same as a candida yeast. And then you see under a microscope what a candida yeast looks like. It's exactly the same as this demon, and they do the same things. They control you the same way. You know, they control what you want to eat. They influence your moods and feelings and thoughts about things. Uh, there is a lot of people have got them. You know, 100 years ago they were much more rare, but we've had this increase in sugar everywhere. Now there's sugar everywhere. You know, in loads of different foods, it's got sugar in, and there's loads of carbs, and we're encouraged to eat loads of carbs and sugar, and it feeds your this organism, this yeast organism. It's in the Bible. It says in the Bible, beware of the yeast of the pharaohs. That's what it says. Honestly, it says it in the Bible. What they do is they take over your body, and you try it. If you're someone who eats lots of sugar, right? Just try to get rid of it out of your diet for a month, or ideally a year or 2 years. Just get rid of sugar out of your diet, and use lots of fiber and roughage to scrape the insides of your digestive tract and push it all through out of your system, and then heal it with things like chicken stock and green leafy stuff like wheatgrass juice and spirulina and chlorella, that kind of thing. There's things you can use to heal your gut. Fasting is another one. Fast for a day or two, or 1 day just of just water. It can really help to heal your gut. Certain types of fruit and vegetables that have got stuff that helps your digestive tract, like pineapple and apples, bananas, a little bit of banana, not too much because they're very sugary. Celery, what are they called? Sauerkraut, fermented vegetables. There's a lot of things. You do need to do the research. I'm not going to tell you everything. It'd take too long. Yeah, so updating about the Datura. As I say, I've only been smoking extremely small amounts, just a couple of milligrams with some tobacco mainly, It's been a couple of months now, at least 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. I feel fine. I had heart problems that they seem less. One of the things I didn't mention in the other video, because I only just tried it, one of the things I found that's really cool about it that I really like is where I've had this like voice in my head, not like voices in my head, it's my own sort of thoughts, but just going round and round, like with arguing and like with myself, trying to work out things and arguing with myself and, looking at different sides of an argument and following through the argument. And it just takes loads of time and energy. It's part of having a high IQ and a stressful life. You have to work things out so that you sort of like come to sort of certain things. But sometimes your brain just goes overactive and it just goes on and on and on. And you end up, you can't sleep, and stuff like that. And it helps with sleeping as well. So I feel like I've been sleeping better, and it helps to shut that voice down, in your head. It sort of helps to shut your internal dialogue down, put it to rest. That's what I find it does. And that's what's helped me to I feel that it liberates loads of energy. And so it's, for me, it's a really useful medicine. And you know, unfortunately, the the powers that be don't like it. They've been trying to demonize it for hundreds of years, you know, by emphasizing the fact that it's poisonous, you know. I can see there's a certain logic to what they do. I'm not trying to say that everything they've done is wrong, but there is another side to it, you know, where it can be a very valuable medicine, you know, and it can really help your lifestyle, improve your lifestyle a lot. Make you feel a lot grounded, a lot more relaxed, able to sleep better. So for someone like me in my position, who's had really chronic insomnia for many, many years, this is, and heart problems, this medicine is really, really useful. You know, I've just ordered some seeds so I can grow it myself, you know. I found out that I'm not supposed to actually order it online. It's actually, I'm only supposed to be able to buy it in a pharmacy, but I don't know how likely that is. Maybe I should go to my doctor and say, look, can I have some permission to get Datura from the pharmacy and see what he says, you know, because I've tried it and I really like it, but I want to be able to use it medicinally. Can I get a prescription for some Datura, because I can only buy it in a pharmacy? You know, that's the law. It's fucking, you know, it's understandable. The horrible thing about all this stuff, and what I have problems with the written word and left brain people and stuff, is that it's all so reasonable. There's always a good reason for everything, but that means that people like me end up like having really suffering terribly, so that everyone else can have a safe existence. their lives can be more safer. So when people like me can't get the medicine that we need to make our lives like bearable. But luckily I was able to get this bit on online, and I can grow it for myself. That's the thing to do. I have to just grow it for myself, you know. I mean, I'm going to grow it probably grow it in my house, you know. Just grow it in the window, you know. Oh yeah, so the thing about the sugar, candida. I mean, beer does feed candida a small amount, but not as much as sugar. See, I got off of sugar. I went about a year without sugar. When I wasn't making videos, I was going a year without sugar. I started using stevia and xylitol. Xylitol from like birch and beech tree bark. They extract the sugars or sugar-like substances from the bark and turn it into like a granulated sugar, and you can buy that. It's 15 times more expensive than sugar, but it actually helps you. It's good for your teeth. It helps strengthen your teeth, and it doesn't cause the sort of problems that sugar causes. So it helped me to get rid of the candida overgrowth out of my system. And then I was able to go on to really experience ketogenic metabolism properly. So my brain function become a lot better. I was able to think a lot more clearly. I just felt like I had loads of energy. Along with this, when you get rid of the yeast overgrowth, you also, it makes a lot of sense to improve, use a lot of bone stocks and green powders like wheatgrass, like I mentioned, wheatgrass and barley grass, moringa, spirulina, chlorella, that kind of thing. Organ meats, You know, if you're going to eat meat, go for things like New Zealand lamb liver and kidneys, because they're usually pretty healthy, you know, organic, pasture raised, you know. And if they're frozen, they're going to be frozen. If you know, if you don't live in New Zealand, they've been frozen, so it kills any bacteria in there. So they're very safe. You can practically eat them raw, you know, or just cook them lightly. Don't overcook them. You know, cook them very gently so that we keep a lot of all the goodness in there, so it's easy to digest. Yeah, avoid sugary fruit. Just like berries, I found are really good. Blueberries and raspberries, I've found are really good in the morning to set you up for the day. And some bone stocks. Certain types of exercises are really good. Going for a walk after a meal for 15 minutes is really good for your digestion. And there's a lot of other stuff that I've been picking up. And you need to do the research. You just have to do the research. You know, focus on stuff that's really good for you. Focus. I take about 30 odd herbs that are all supposed to help you live longer and are really good for you. And I take them like periodically, all these extracts and stuff. And you know, over time, you just feel the benefits. You know. So I'm not going to list them. It's much better if you do the research, find out what's better for you, because what's good for me might not always be good for you. You know, I'm a man, you know, I'm at a certain age, I'm like nearly 50. So things that are good for me won't necessarily be good for everyone. You have to do the research. There's no substitute for research. You know, you've got to do that. And trial and error. It's taken me quite a long time, but I'm moving forward like in a gradual way that I'm really happy with. I've grown comfortable with it, and I'm moving forward gradually, and it's really satisfying. It's exciting, you know. I feel excited, but in a good way, and I feel like I'm growing. You know, it's like I'm nearly 50, but I'm growing. You know, I'm growing more. You know, it's like. It's exciting. Dear. There's loads of opportunities. You know, I'm not doing a lot at the moment, but I've got loads of possibilities open to me that I know that can increase my health and well-being and increase my lifespan and stuff. And it feels like the world is my oyster. That's what it feels like, you know. This is really what I wanted to do with the work. You know, it's really about getting to the point where you feel comfortable with life, you know, and you're enjoying it, and you've got everything to look forward to, and you know, it's like it's like I'm in the Garden of Eden, you know, and I'm just on my own, you know. I'm experiencing it for the first time. It's exciting, you know. You know, when it comes to the work on my YouTube channel, I've got the first 2 months work because there's 4 months. Basically, it's 4 months work. The second 2 months are unavailable at the moment, but there's not that much going on. It's a lot of meditation there. It's really about me focusing. I hadn't really moved that far. I want to do ideally do an update on them in a couple of years' time, maybe when I've got more grounded in those areas, in the sort of mental plane and the spiritual plane. The work really was more concerned with the physical plane and the astral plane. I wasn't really experienced enough with the mental plane and the spiritual plane to be able to make proper videos about them. So I've left them unavailable, mainly because they're probably not worth your time, you know. Whereas maybe the first couple of months worth of videos, they might be worth a look at, because they've led to where I am now, and I seem to have made some significant advances, even though they're subtle and gradual. It's taken quite a long time, but I definitely feel that there's been some significant improvements. As I say, I feel like the world is my oyster. I didn't feel like that so much, you know, when I started the work, but now I do. So, you know, make your own mind up. Decide if you want to watch them. Okay. Is there anything else? Let me just think. Some of the things I've been thinking about lately, stupid people. I don't know, there's somebody watching. Yeah, I don't know if people are allowed to chat. Anyway, I often find that a distraction, actually, people talking. So thanks for not putting any comments in the chat section. Whoever's watching. Okay, what was I going to talk about? Oh, stupid people. Yeah. Robert Anton Wilson talks about this. Stupid people. Your average IQ is 100, right? So most people have, well, 50% of people probably have an IQ less than 100. But people with an IQ of 100 are pretty stupid, you know. That's your average person. And most people are more stupid than that. And the school system. Our school system dumbs people down. I wish people would talk about this, right? And as well as things like the cannabis laws. You know, cannabis has been shown to cure cancer, prevent Parkinson's disease, cure multiple sclerosis. It's an incredibly powerful and useful medicine, right? All the human trials were done about 170 years ago. You know, 170 years ago, it was all shown to be definitely proven. It cures all these things, you know. If you try and ask the government now, they say, oh, no, we need human trials. But you can't do human trials nowadays because the drug's illegal, so they won't let you do the human trials. But they've already been done 170 years ago. And now Rick Simpson's doing more human trials and proving again, over again, that cannabis cures cancer and multiple sclerosis. It prevents Parkinson's disease and other things, other mental problems and stuff. You know, it's an incredibly useful thing. But can you tell anyone about this? No, people don't listen. Why? Most people's brains are like locked into their sort of like reptile brain or their bird brain, you know, and you can't reason with them. It's like talking to a lizard. It's literally like talking to a lizard or a bird. You know, you can't get anywhere at all. You know, if you've got your human brain activated, which I like to think that I have, or at least nearly have, I tend to think of myself like a chimpanzee. I'm like a chimpanzee, but with human language. I'm nearly human. But at least I'm honest. You know, most people, these people, the thing is, right, the problem is for these people, and I do kind of feel sorry for them in a way, but and no more than I feel sorry for a chicken that I'm going to eat. It's like they can't help it, you know. It's like, I don't know how to activate that part of their brain. Maybe they just haven't got enough nutrients to sort of activate it. Maybe I was just lucky and I got the right nutrients when I was young. My mum did actually feed me things like liver boiled up with milk. I used to have boiled eggs. They were still runny, so the yolk was still runny. Maybe they were good eggs, you know, and I got lots of nutrients and stuff. And she got me cod tails, the end of a cod, because we were poor when I was young. We was poor, so we used to eat. But my mum, a lot of the time, right, the cheap food is actually the best food. You know, liver, eggs, like the ends of cod, you know, that are just, she boil them up in milk, you know, and feed me and scrape it off the bone and give it to me, you know. My mum's a horrible person in a lot of ways, but she did have good instincts for motherhood when I was born, it seems. And so, apart from the fact that I was only breastfed for 2 weeks, and then I was put on like formula milk, you know, that was just horrible pasteurized cow's milk powder with a few minerals like just stuck in there. It was awful stuff. I couldn't digest it properly, so I had a real difficult childhood. And what I've been doing since like the last 5 years is going into all these supplements, and I've been having like in the past I've had raw goat's milk, which has been helping repair my gut and get all my bacteria together, you know, down there. I probably seem like a hypocrite drinking alcohol, but as far as I'm concerned, alcohol is not as bad as sugar. As I was talking about earlier about my friend who eats about 100, typically eats 150 grams of sugar a day, you know, in all the food that he eats and the bottle of orange juice that he consumes. I worked it out, 150 grams of sugar, that's a serious candida overgrowth problem, you know. Okay, was there anything else? No, just women, you know, women. What can you do about women? They're just there, aren't they? There's nothing you can do about them. You can't stop them. You can't do anything about them. It's like they're just there. I've noticed this thing with astrology. There are women I'm attracted to, right? And it's just like they're impossibly attractive. There's these certain women, and if I look and try and think about them like logically, then there's nothing really about them all that much attractive. Maybe a couple of little things, but nothing much, you know. But then if I stop thinking about them, then they suddenly became really like a playing on my mind. They're so attractive, and it's astrology. I've worked it out. It's astrology. You know, I've noticed that they've got planets that are affecting my houses in my chart, you know, in such a way that it's switching my buttons on, you know, it's pressing my buttons, and I can't do anything about it, you know. There's certain women that are not really suitable for me, but I'm terribly attracted to them. And then there's other women that probably are suitable, and I'm just not even, I've got no interest. It's so funny. What do you do about it? It's like, I don't know what to do. It's just fucking stupid. Oh yeah, you'd have to watch the Hi Shiny Beast, right? You have to watch the rest of the video if you've just joined. I already talked about it, but it's been going really well. I'm just smoking some now. It's like, it's really cool. As long as you microdose, it's very simple. Where it's a delirium, if you use very small amounts, your body nudges you back in the other direction. So it has the opposite effect of making you delirious. So it's like that. Just use very, very small amounts, and it has the opposite effect of what it has in large amounts. And you've got to just adjust it to your personal tastes, you know, but stick with extremely small amounts, micrograms, a few micrograms. Okay, I've got to make more tobacco. I said this is going to be a long video. You have to bear with me if you're going to put up with me. Oh dear. Yeah, it's like with women, right? I've been going off women. I don't mean going off them, but it's like my sex drive is like, as I'm getting older, it's sort of slowing down a bit, you know. I've been using all these herbs and that, and so it's not like it's disappeared, but I feel like I've got more control over it, more influence. And I find I'm really glad that I'm not so like desperate to have sex with women. I can sort of like keep things at bay, you know, and just like be more relaxed, and it's a relief, you know. One of the things, I mean, I drink a lot of beer. That helps to keep your sex drive low, you know. And because otherwise, I've found that I just got too much testosterone, and I can't think clearly around women, especially attractive women. There's certain women that I'm attracted to. It's like I can't think clearly around them. It's like their pheromones affect me or something, you know. And I just act stupid, you know. And it just fucking. Sometimes I wish I was a caveman, and it was just like I could just grab a woman by the head, by the hair, like, you know, and just make use of her. I don't understand why things are so difficult. I know it's got a lot to do with our dumbing down, and we're not taught how to court properly. People used to be taught how to court, you know, but we're not anymore. It's just we're left to our own devices, and we're all dumbed down. They've destroyed our culture. You know, these things didn't used to be a problem, you know, but now that our world is in chaos, you know, and you've got the criminal fucking banksters controlling everything and keeping everyone dumbed down. Everyone's really stupid, you know, where they could have a school system that increases your IQ by 20 points. They've got one that lowers it by 20 points. Most of us could be geniuses, but most of us now, because of our school system, we're fucking idiots, you know. You know, I don't know if this is a good thing or not. I don't think it is. You know, we've got a man-made mass extinction event going on. You know, we've had a dumbing down school system for the last 70 years. And during that time, after 30 years after that, we started destroying 30,000 species on the planet every year. Since the 1970s, it's been consistent. We're destroying 30,000 species on the planet every year after 25 years of a dumbed down school system. You know, I don't really have to explain any more than that. That's all you really need to know. That's what a dumbed down school system does. It destroys the planet. It's making it uninhabitable. So that's the value of a dumbed down school system. And what's worse is that if I try and explain this to people, they're so fucking dumbed down, they don't get what they need to do. So I've got to explain it to them. If you don't talk about it, if you don't spread the word, we're all gonna die. Nothing will change, and we're just going to wipe out all life on the earth. If you do talk about it, if everyone talks about it, then we can start doing something about it. We can change. We can save the world. So you've got a choice. You've got two options: either shut up and let the world be destroyed, or talk about it and make something change. You know, if you talk about it, you're being the change that the world that you need to see in the world. If you need the world to be a place where doctors give you the right medicine, then you've got to talk about it. If you want to live in a world where they give you the wrong medicine, then just shut up. Oh dear. So, you know, yeah, I'm just going to make a roll up. And I think there's a reason why Christ said, you know, I am the truth, I am the way. It's not because he was Christ, it's because that's the way of the truth. That's the way. It's the Tao. It's the Tao, the Tao. You know, it's the way. You have to live in the truth. You know, otherwise, if you're not living in the truth, you're not on the straight and narrow path. You have to stick on the straight and narrow path. You always must be in the truth, so that you can follow the yellow brick road. So I've got this song keep going in my head, right? Does anybody know what this song is, right? I know the bass line. The bass line keeps going through my head. Is it Stevie Wonder? Is it Stevie Wonder? I don't know. Is it Michael Jackson? I can't remember. I just wish I tried loads of searches to try and find what this tune is. I keep getting it stuck in my head. How do you get rid of a tune that's stuck in your head? It's been like 2 years. Yeah, dear. Okay, speaking about the Jimson weed, okay. Semen retention, how does that work? I mean, we talk about our sexual habits, you know? Is that acceptable? It's actually interesting because it can impact your, you know, your magical development and spiritual development and evolution and stuff. It's a matter of energy, I think, you know. Yeah, so semen retention, I don't really know exactly how you practice that, but I can imagine it could really, you know, be a practical way of increasing your energy and your spirituality, perhaps, you know. If it's got something to do with tantra, I'm aware that you can have orgasms, men and women have orgasms where you don't lose bodily fluids. You can still have an orgasm without losing any bodily fluids. So yeah, that seems to me like the way forward. You know, most of your orgasms you should have without losing any bodily fluids. So in that sense, yeah. I tried to masturbate like a few months ago, like because I thought, oh, I need to get rid of some semen. It took ages. It took a couple of weeks, not constantly, but I just couldn't seem to get it out. You know, I should do it again, but I need a girlfriend. It'd be so much easier if I had a girlfriend. I suppose, or a boyfriend, but I don't really. I'm not attracted to men really. No, men just like that just makes me go. I'm getting less attracted to women. I'm just lately. I just like, you know, I've not had sex for such a long time. I'm just like, meh. I've stopped caring really. Occasionally I get moods where I just really want to have a shag, you know, and it's like, but it's just a lot of hassle. You know, I just try and sleep it off, or I get drunk or something, you know. It's interesting. That's another thing I was thinking today. I'm more interested in having sex for the right reason. Well, for fifth house reasons, you know, like for romance and having children, you know, rather than having like blowjobs and prostitutes and threesomes and stuff, you know. It's those sort of things I used to fantasize about when I was younger, but now, you know, I'm getting to that age, like, it's like I'm putting those childish things away. Yeah, so I'm putting them childish things away, and it's like I'm only really interested in sex now in terms of marriage and having children. Apart from that, it's like I'm just bored with it all. It's just like it's all I can't be bothered. It's too much hassle. And sex magic as well. It's like meh, not interested really. I used to be interested when I was younger. I was interested in the idea of it. Never actually done any though, and it's just like, well, you know, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't really care. Yeah, this work thing, it's like it's many different levels, so I'm kind of been working on many different levels. That's how it seems like, and you sort of like have to focus on the levels that are most need most attention. So sometimes it seems as though I'm not doing very much, but I'm actually working on other levels. I don't know if this is the same for other people. So it would seem as though when I've been finished doing the work on other levels, then it should get to a point where seem to make a lot of progress on the physical plane all very, very quickly, because I've been doing a lot of work on other levels, and it gradually filters down to this level, and you start noticing real differences. It's funny that I still drink beer, although that was one of the things I tried to give up right at the beginning. I wanted to stop drinking beer and stop smoking. and I'm still drinking and smoking. I'm annoyed about that. It really annoys me and it irritates me. You know, it looks like I'm not making any progress. But on the other hand, I do feel like I've made a lot of progress. It's just been very slow and gradual, you know. I'm generally still like happier. I feel more grounded, you know. Hi, HRC. Good to see you, mate. Right. What? That is oh. I don't know if it's your HRC, but you make comments and it says show or hide or whatever, and I put show and then it doesn't show the comment, or it's just the same comment. You've done this before. You've got a hex on you or something. YouTube has hexed you. That's what it is. What are the boundaries? I mean, wonder what the boundaries are here on making these videos. Am I being watched? Do they watch me? I don't know what the boundaries are. What can I talk about? You know, it's like this is supposed to be entertainment, so it's not like I'm making videos that are supposed to be, you know, educational or anything. It's all a laugh, really. It's like I'm just having a bit of fun. I like to talk about the truth, but I know most people can't take it, and you know, the establishment can't deal with it. But they like to see what the truth is, so they can sort of like work their way around trying to suppress it in a way that seems to be acceptable to most people. So I'm basically trying to preempt them and be able to get the truth across in such a way that it is acceptable to most people. So they basically are in a stalemate position with me, but at the same time my videos can still be watched. Although hardly anybody watches them, they are still technically there, so they can be watched and it's still the truth. But I'm looking at it in terms of entertainment. You know, it's not like I'm really pushing my videos. They haven't got a lot to complain about with me. They don't. I'm only a very small splinter in their heel, their thick heel that they've made thick from stamping on people for over thousands of years. You know, so that little splinter is not really anything to be bothered about. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up, you guys. You know, 3 thumbs up. That's a lot more than I get on a lot of my videos. Already, I'm doing really well just by wasting your time and just making loads of nonsense noises. You want to have met my dad. I wish I could get my dad on here. My dad was the right character, you know. He was like, my dad, right, gave me and my 2 younger brothers cocaine when I was 10. My younger brother was 7, and then my youngest brother was like 5. Oh dear, I'm sorry to laugh, but it's like, it was so funny. He gave us all cocaine. My family wouldn't let me speak at the funeral because that's the sort of thing I would have told everyone. Oh dear. Now, about my dad, right? He talks. He come back from India. He went to India when I was about 18 months old, and he came back, and I didn't recognize him because he'd been away for 6 months. So when he came back, I didn't recognize him. We didn't get on after that. I'm the firstborn child. He came back. He was all looking. He had dysentery for a few weeks, and he looked really ill. And I didn't recognise him. There'd been another man in the house when I was there. You know, I was frightened of him when he come to the door. I thought it was Father Christmas. My mum said, "Oh, there's a surprise at the door. Go and answer the door." She didn't answer the door. She was embarrassed because and frightened because she was like she'd been seeing another guy while my dad was in India. I mean, he shouldn't have gone off to India, you know. He was away for 6 months. She started seeing another guy. So she made me go and answer the front door to my dad. And I was like 2 years old, just 2 years old. He'd been away for 6 months. I didn't recognize him. He was all looking all weird, you know, like ill, and his face was all drawn, and, you know, it looked like a skeleton. Like he was all skin and bones. He frightened me when I saw him. It was like a monster, you know. I'd never seen anyone look so ill, you know, and like death's door. And oh dear, he'd been having opium. He'd been taking opium for weeks, you know. He looked like a drug addict, a vampire or something. You know, he's like Count Dracula. I was expecting Father Christmas, right? And because my mum had said, "Oh look, there's a really great surprise at the door," I was thinking, "Oh great, it's Father Christmas." And it wasn't. It was my dad, and he looked really ill. And then when I shied away from him, he sort of like didn't want anything to do with me after that. He sort of thought I was like the devil or something. When I thought he was the devil. So for all the time I was growing up after that, I thought he was the devil. He thought I was the devil, and he was like, my two younger brothers, they got all the good stuff, you know, they were all like looked after, and I was always kept on the outside. I was like the bad guy, you know, I was the black sheep, you know. And it's still like that. They don't take anything I say seriously, my family. So I don't take them seriously. That's why I'm basically like, I don't have anything to do with my family. I had a shit upbringing. And also these people have been talking while I've been talking. What are you talking about? Yeah, beer's good. Yeah, whores are women. My comments show up in blah blah blah. I see them here in Scandinavia. Yeah, you need a license from the BBC to have fun. No, I don't. They're still free in Scandinavia, apparently. Yeah. When Scotland abdicates from the United Kingdom, invasion should be easy. Well, that's obvious, isn't it? Okay, so one of the things that's really interesting, that probably people aren't that interested in, but I think it's really interesting. These other herbs you can microdose with, right? I've got in here a bit of Datura stramonium. So it helps me to feel more grounded, you know, more focused, more awake. What you can do with these things, if you have cannabis sativa, that's the African strain. It's good for a daytime smoke. It's good for the mind. Whereas the indica, in comparison, the indica is more of a nighttime smoke. It helps you sleep. The indica strain is good for curing cancer. It helps you sleep. It helps your immune system. It rebuilds your immune system. It's really powerful medicine. But the other strain, the sativa strain, is good for the mind and to make your brain work much more efficiently. And what's really good, interesting about it is that if you put a little tiny bit of belladonna, like Atropa belladonna or deadly nightshade, just a tiny little sprinkling of the leaf, right? Now, what that does is make you feel more alive. So when you smoke sativa and you put a little bit of belladonna with it and a little bit of datura, because the datura is a delirium, so it makes you feel, if you put very small amounts, if you microdose with it, it's going to make you feel more conscious and more what's the word, precise, more precise and accurate and clear-minded, right? So you're having a very small amount of datura, which is going to make you more accurate and precise, and a little bit of belladonna, which is going to make you feel more alive, and the sativa strain cannabis, which you're going to have plenty of in there. That's going to make you feel like your brain's working a lot more effectively, right? So if you put these three things together, like plenty of sativa and very tiny amounts of datura and belladonna, datura, stramonium, and atropa belladonna, then you're going to get an effect that makes you feel like you can fight like 10 tigers, right? Robert Anton Wilson talks about this in the Illuminatus books, the Illuminatus epilogue called Cosmic Trigger. The guy that was responsible for the name of hashish, Hassan Sibah, this guy who lived in Afghanistan, and he had all these assassins working for him, and he used to have like a harem of beautiful women, and he would get these guys to come and like smoke this combination of herbs, and he would get them like to then have sex with these like beautiful women, and then he would like get them to go and become assassins and kill his enemies, like, and feed him all this sort of propaganda and stuff, But without all the propaganda and all that, you can still smoke this stuff and you can use it to, get really high in a really good way that is like very focused. And the Illuminati probably don't want you to know about this. I've never heard anyone talking about it apart from Robert Anton Wilson in the Illuminatus books. And I've tried it with some sativa type cannabis, like resin, and it seemed to made my chakras open out like these great big astral flowers, elaborate flowers that opened out with lots of petals and stuff. My crown chakra, my third eye chakra, very visually in front of me, incredible experiences, quite a long time ago. But really worth looking into these sort of things, because they seem to be if you use them properly, they're extremely safe, but also extremely powerful, and make you like almost like a god, like you're able to think like a god and behave like a sort of like with all this incredible awareness of what's going on around you and this zest for life. And there's so many good benefits. You can't really list them. There's so many, but really worth a good a look into, and relatively easy to look into if you can be bothered. You just got to either grow the herbs yourself or order them online. You can order them online. I've obviously ordered this online, although I'm not supposed to. I've looked at the laws. I'm not supposed to order Jimson weed online, but I have done, and it seems all good. I haven't got into trouble so far. I'm really enjoying myself. I'm having a great time with it, and I've just ordered some belladonna as well. I'm just waiting for that to come through, so then I'll have the belladonna and datura. All I'll need then is the sativa strain cannabis, which is a bit difficult to get hold of, considering it's illegal here. The thing is with that, right, I consider the government to be, they've been overrun with organized criminals. And so it's the mafia. So, you know, it's not like they're what they say is God's word or anything. They're just criminals trying to like control everyone, and they're the worst type of criminals. You know, as far as I'm concerned, who would make a herb that cures cancer illegal everywhere in the world? Only people that are monstrously evil would do that, surely. And if anyone thinks differently and can explain to me why these are good people making a herb, a natural herb that cures cancer, illegal, then please do tell me why I'm wrong in thinking that they're completely evil, because I do really would like to know, you know. But as far as I'm concerned, what they do is murder, you know. They're basically murdering millions of people. It's like it's worse than genocide. It's just the same as genocide at the very least, you know. I wish people would talk about it more, because if all the time people don't talk about it, they're agreeing through their silence. It's like silent, what's the word? Consent. It's consent. If you don't speak up against these things, you're consenting and saying that it's okay. So everybody should speak up against this. I really believe that's really important, and I just can't be bothered to sort of make a big deal out of it, because I've already tried that and it doesn't seem to work. I just get a wall of silence, you know. I was at my family's a few months ago, right? There was an anniversary of my grandmother's, my mum's mother, and I went there, and I wasn't that comfortable, but I wanted to go there because I really liked my grandmother. You know, she was one of my favorite people when I was growing up. So I wanted to go there, but I had one little joint, you know, I had a little smoke. I went off and sat on my own in the garden and just smoked a little spliff. And before I knew it, a few minutes later, my mum came over and said, "Oh, your brother doesn't want you to smoke a spliff. Can you put it out?" And it's like, oh, fuck you then. Because I grew up, as I mentioned before, me and my two brothers were all given cocaine. My dad, when I was when they was like 5 and 7, and I was 10, my dad used to always smoke a bong every day, all day long when I was growing up. When we was all growing up, we all smoked, everyone smoked cannabis. Well, I mean, you know, everyone around us smoked cannabis, you know, when we was kids. They didn't give it to us all that often, but occasionally they did. You know, I was given cannabis when I was 4 years old. So when I'm going to smoke cannabis at my grandma's, like, you know, anniversary sort of thing, which for 100th anniversary of her life, and then my brother starts saying I should put out a spliff, I just left. I just didn't even say goodbye. I just went. They don't want me here. They never take anything I say seriously. They don't like me. They won't take anything I say seriously. So I've decided to not take anything them seriously at all. My family, they're a joke now. I just think of them as a joke, a stupid joke that I don't even think is funny. It's just a stupid joke. I just forget it. Go away. I can't believe that people are watching. Well, I can just about believe it. Out of about 8 billion people, at least 4 people can watch. Anyway, excuse me while I just relieve my bladder. Okay, you guys. I see someone's left. Okay, what's your best and worst memories, right, from your childhood? What's your best memory? And oh, look, that got another one going. What's your best and worst memories from your childhood, right? Okay, while you're thinking about it, I'll just tell you what mine are, right? I think my worst memory, I'm going to start with the worst memory first, right? The worst memory was my dad coming into my room when I was probably about 8 years old. And I'd already a few months before that, I'd been a bit difficult for my parents. I was quite a difficult child. I used to light fires and stuff. I used to get into the trouble with the police, right, and bring the police round. And because my dad used to smoke cannabis and stuff, he didn't want the police coming round. It's very difficult thinking about my childhood. It was very difficult. It was really stressful. When my dad come into my room, and I'm a bit autistic, so I don't like to look people in the eye a lot. And my dad come into the room in the morning early, and he said, "Look at me," because I weren't looking. He stood over me. He stood over me, and he said, "Look at me." And I didn't want to look at him. I looked at him, look at his chest. He said, "Look at me." And I looked him in the eye, and he just said, "You're a bastard," right in my eye, really with loads of hatred. And it gave me the evil eye, and it just started straight away after that. He just walked out the room, right? And then when he walked out, I heard him, he sighed, he sort of, like he relaxed, he got some energy out of it, it made him feel a lot better, right? But me, in my brain started going chaotic. It just started going into all this chaos, and it was like making me feel really terrible, and I didn't understand what he'd done. Now I know it's the evil eye. He just give me the evil eye, like a vampire or something. After that, because he calls me, it just went on for months, and it didn't stop. All this chaos just kept going round in my head. It was horrible, really, really fucking horrible, and it just like really drained me of energy, made me feel really depressed. I felt like I was just almost not quite dying, but it just drained me of energy. It made me feel just so miserable for months and months and months. It just went on and on and on, until it was like I was like a zombie, and then it took like years to like a year or so to sort of progress. And then I started getting bullied by some kid, and it just went on from there. I would get the evil eye from someone or some sort of horrible experience. It would drain me of energy and cause all these problems in my head. And it all started off with my dad giving me the evil eye that first time. But also, going back 4 years before there, it was like I didn't want to go to school. I really tried to get my parents to not send me to school. I really didn't want to go. And I felt like a slave. I'd been sold into slavery, given into slavery, handed into sort of like these slave masters that would make me do this horrible written work that was really depressing and really stressful and just horrible and really, really stressful, because I'm a visual thinker. All this written word stuff was excruciatingly horrible. It was torture. So I was just tortured for 10 years, and so in the meantime, I just went crazy. I couldn't handle it. I used to light fires, and I wasn't a normal person. I was delinquent. He calls me to go delinquent, and my dad should have known better. He was beaten for being left-handed. My dad was left-handed. He was beaten for being left-handed. Oh, yeah, okay. You talk about circumcision. I don't mind. Anyway, my dad was beaten for being left-handed. Interestingly, just lately, I've been getting like secondary memories of being beaten on my left hand, although I never was, only my dad was. But it's like DNA. My DNA remembers it. You know, I feel like I've been beaten on my left hand, although I never have. It's just like a phantom memory from my dad, through my DNA or something. Really weird. You know what? I'm thinking of carrying on this for hours and hours. It's an hour and 15 minutes. I see other people doing these really long videos, like live things, and it's just like, well, I haven't got anything else to do. It's not. It doesn't cost me anything, you know. And if you people are like still watching, so I mentioned the worst memory. That was my worst memory, getting the evil eye from my dad. I think that was probably the worst memory. Although, I mean, there's other things happened. I saw a dead body washed up on the beach when I was young, but that didn't really bother me. It wasn't like getting the evil eye from my dad. That was like the worst thing, I think. Another thing that happened was there was a girl that I liked. We went on holiday to Wales, and we stayed on this farm. And there was this girl, and she was blonde haired, and she was about a year older than me. I was probably about 7. And she said to me one day, "Do you want to kiss me?" And I said, "Yeah." And then she said, "Right, close your eyes." And I closed my eyes, and she kneed me in the fucking balls. Nasty little bitch. That put me off of blonde haired women for life. You know, it's really sad, you know. I'm sure there's some decent blonde women out there, blonde-haired women out there, but that woman, that little girl, fucking just ruined blonde-haired women for me. It's really, really annoying. Now I seem to only be attracted to dark-haired women. I can't be attracted to anyone with blonde hair. It's like, oh, it's automatically shy away. I just can't help it. You know, it's like once bitten, twice shy, they say, isn't it? I don't know. Oh dear. Okay, there's some of the worst things that's happened. I'm trying to think of the best things that happened when I was a kid. Okay. So one thing that sticks to mind, it wasn't the best thing that happened, but it's always had an impact with me. And that was when my dad said to me, he took me aside when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And there was no one else around. He said, "Damien, I'm not supposed to tell you my name." He said, "Come here." He said, like, "Rank Emperor, come here." Sit down. And I went and sat down, and he said, I'm going to tell you something, right? It's really important. And he said, "The truth is the most important thing." And then he said, "The truth is the most important thing." And that's always stuck by me. That's like, to me, my dad is like a proper disciple of Christ. When Christ says, "I am the truth, I am the way, none shall get to the Father except through me." My dad was a decent, righteous disciple in that moment. It's always stuck by with me, and that, to me, that's probably the best thing that happened to me when I was a child. That was my father telling me that the truth is the most important thing. But apart from that, he was a real arsehole. He was a bastard, you know. There's some other times when he was a mixture. He was a good mixture of good and bad. My dad, you know, he was like good proper mixture. He had some really good points, but he had some pretty bad points as well, you know. So he was like probably like most people, you know. Okay, some of the other good things. I mean, I remember like bonfire night. 5th of November, when I was probably about seven years old. And they would be a big bonfire with a Guy Fawkes dummy sitting on the bonfire, so he'd burn it, and then we'd have like baked potatoes baked in the fire, so we're all waiting around there. They've all been like, you've got these big potatoes covered in tin foil and put around the edges of the fire, so we're waiting for them to roast, and chestnuts as well, chestnuts roasting. And people are playing like the Bob the Apple, trying to get an apple out of a barrel of water and stuff. And everyone's dressed up in sort of Halloween clothes, or some people are, dressed up as witches and goblins and stuff. And there's been fireworks and that, and toffee apples and little sort of community things like that. And that's one of the things I remember was like good times. Christmases were pretty shit to me. I remember Christmases, they were supposed to be like a good time of year, but they were always seemed depressing to me. Halloween seemed to be the best time of year. Halloween, bonfire night. And the other thing, going out for walks up on the hills with my dog. When I was, again, about 8 or 9 years old, that sort of time, given a bit of freedom, where I just felt free myself, having my dog running around. And they were some of the best memories. Let me just try and think. Were there any other good memories? Sometimes some puddings. I used to look forward to puddings. Like there's this pudding called Spotted Dick, right? And it was like a steamed pudding with beef suet. Beef suet is like the suet is the fat around the intestines of a cow. So it's like this white, solid, like fat, solid at room temperature. And you'd mix it with flour and raisins or sultanas, like vine fruit, dried vine fruit, and some sugar and a raising agent, like bicarbonate of soda. You can still make it today. I haven't had it for a long time, but you can still have it. So you mix all that together and you put it in a basin, a small sort of like ceramic jar thing, like it's a bit smaller at the bottom and a bit rounder at the top, maybe about a pound or 2 pounds in weight. It would hold, and you would fill it up with this mixture of suet and flour and raisins or sultanas and salt, a little bit of salt and a bit of sugar and stuff, raising agent, and steam it in some water for about 2 hours. And then you'd have it with custard, vanilla sort of cream mixed with some sort of thickening agent and milk and stuff. And it was so lovely. I used to love it when I was a kid. It would be so satisfying. I've not had it for a really long time. I could make it, actually. I might even think about making some with some gluten-free flour. That's a really interesting idea. I might do that. And if I can still make videos, I might eat it online so you can watch me eat it. It's going to be so delicious. I used to really love eating my mum's like leftover cakes in the fridge, like apple crumble, rhubarb crumble. She would leave them in the fridge. What we didn't eat it in the evening, she would be left over, and it would stay in the fridge for a couple of days. And in the morning, I'll sometimes help myself to it, a lot. I used to love those sweet things when I was growing up. So there's some of my better memories. If I think of any more, I'll bring them up. truth's not the most important thing. Well, what is the most important thing then? HRC. Okay, your circumcisions was your worst memory. What about your best memory then? Yeah, the thing about genital mutilation, right? This is what I've heard about foreign countries like Sweden and stuff, is that there's 10% of people that have got genital mutilation in Sweden, and they can commit 90% of the rapes. Now, that to me, that's quite an interesting statistic. It would suggest that genital mutilation makes people more like animals, makes them less human, which makes sense. If you're taking part of a human's body away, they're going to be less human, aren't they? Kind of obvious, really. I think what it is, right? They would rather the circumcision would make you more godlike, but actually, most of the time, it makes you more like an animal. But sometimes it makes you more godlike. But it's like a gamble, you know. It's like a gamble. Most of the time you lose, but sometimes you win, you know. You could argue from that Jews are not human, nor Muslims. They're not human. They've opted out of humanity. They're either more godlike or more animal-like, but they're not human. Mostly, they're more animal-like. A few of them are more godlike, but is it a good value? Is it a good bargain? You know, to me, it's almost like they're bargaining with the devil. That's what it seems like to me. You know, I'm just giving my opinion. That's what it seems like. Okay, love is the most important thing. Well, what is love? I've just been reading a book actually. Let me just say this. Oh, it's not. I haven't got it here, but I've got the second in the series. What was the first one? Yeah, The Just City. I know the Just City was the first one. That was the first book. The Just City. I don't know if you can see it that clearly there. The Just City. This is, I haven't read this one. This is the second one, but it's talking about Socrates. Socrates is one of the characters. They're trying to create the just city that Plato talks about in the Republic. It's quite interesting because they're talking about some really interesting ideas about rhetoric. There's lots of interesting stuff in there. It's a nice read, you know, to stimulate the mind and get you thinking about some interesting things about how rhetoric works, you know, how to ask the right questions. So it's really interesting. I'm interested about it because this is what real education is about. Like Einstein said, education is not learning lists of facts and figures. It's about teaching the mind how to think. That's what education is about. That's what rhetoric is about. It's about learning how to communicate in a way that gets to the truth. I believe Socrates was the forerunner of Christ. Christ was probably a fiction created based on the memory of Socrates. That's how I see things. You know, there's no real evidence for there was a real Christ, as far as I know, but there's pretty strong evidence there was a Socrates, and they made Socrates drink poison for saying that you people shouldn't have the written word. It's fucking crazy. You're mad, you people. You're absolutely fucking out of your brains. That's what Socrates said. And so what did they do? They made him drink poison. That's why I'm just doing entertainment. I'm just doing entertainment because I don't want people to make me drink poison. You know, I'm not going to go and say that. I'm not going to educate people in a realistic way. You know, if you can't be bothered to sort of do your own research and find out the truth, that's your problem. For me, I just want to mention though that living in the truth, I just feel so much liberated. I'm liberated. It's like I feel like I'm like a Buddha. But I don't want any disciples. I'm just telling you, be your own disciple. Go and be your own master. You know, just live in the truth. It's so easy. You just have to not live in a lie. Just avoid lies. Deal with the truth and talk about it. Talk about it and talk to other people about it and get feedback and stuff. It's great. You know, it's hard. You know, you've got to walk the narrow path of truth. It's like a razor path, but you know, it's really good because you feel younger, you feel stronger, you feel healthier, you enjoy life more. It's all good. So you know, I think if you can do it, you should do it. You got nothing to lose really of any consequence and everything to gain. No! Where's my beer? Where's my beer gone? Oh dear. So I'll be back in a minute. I'm just opening a bottle of wine. I'm about to go on to the wine because I've run out of beer. Just an angel in disguise. Oh, they're so unprofessional, I know. These things can't be helped when I'm making a long video. It's like I'm just looking at your conversation there. It's like, well, I've got nothing to add really. I'm glad you're getting on, you two. You know. Yeah. It's one of these things about making long videos. It's like, how do you keep people interested? You know, if I try too hard, it's going to seem forced. you know, so there's no point in that. I have to relax, you know. You don't want to see me looking all stressed out and like trying to force everything. So what you want is to feel like you're here, you know, and relaxed, and it's like a nice, enjoyable atmosphere. That's what I want to do anyway. It's like, and if you're not interested in enjoying the atmosphere, then I don't really want you here anyway. I'm eating cheese. What it is, right? I went off cheese and dairy products, but I've realised now that because through trial and error and experimenting, and I apologise for people in the US like UHRC. It's probably going to be hard for you to find unpasteurised dairy products, but I'm sure you can if you work at it. If you like look around, yeah, it's difficult. You probably have to go to the actual farms to get it, maybe, or I don't know. But there should be some way where you can get unpasteurised dairy products. In the UK, you've got to really search around. You can go to supermarkets and not find any unpasteurised dairy products, except Parmesan cheese. Parmigiano Reggiano or something. I forgot what it's called. Oh, I can just tell you what it's called, actually. Okay, Parmigiano Reggiano, that's what it is. There you go. So you get this bit of cheese. It's like a triangle of cheese. This is just the very last little bit. The last bit is the best bit because it's like it gets really like dark and really concentrated in flavour right at the end. So this last little bit where you're grating it off, you get really lots of flavour from it. So I'm saving it, you know. It'll probably keep for weeks, you know. But it's already been matured for 30 months. It's got a smell of, even though it's just straight out of the fridge, it smells like really sweaty feet, you know, sweaty socks. It's not a particularly nice smell unless you know what the taste is like. The taste of it is so nice that, you know, it makes me want to just nibble a bit off. I'm not going to because it will leave it all like bacteria on it and stuff, and it'll probably pollute it. But anyway, what I've realised, I can only have unpasteurised cheese. This I've got a bit of a camembert here, a little thin slice of camembert. This is unpasteurised camembert, and it makes such a huge difference compared to pasteurised like cheese. I can eat this, and it's great. You know, it's really nice. Tastes wonderful. It tastes like almost like a soft sort of toffee. Really sweet, really nice, lots of complex flavors. Ah, silky smooth. Just a wonderful compliment to some nice Spanish wine. It's from France. I think it's south of France. I can't have pasteurised dairy products. If I have pasteurised dairy products, I get really bad problems with my bowels, like diarrhea. Really horrible. But this stuff is fine. You know, it's no problem at all. It just digests really well. There's loads of important vitamins in here, like vitamin K2. You know, it's got loads of vitamin K2. It's really good for your heart and your circulation and blood clotting and stuff. And it digests really well. I think it's really good for your digestive system as well. Probably not that good, but, you know, good now and again, or not too bad anyway. There's none of the bad effects I get from pasteurised dairy products. Yeah, you'd have to go to the Dairy Mafia, sure. Roquefort cheese, right, is really good for your. Hang on. This is a really interesting book, The Gut Makeover. She recommends this four-week program of no sugar, no caffeine, no alcohol, no grains, no vegetable oils apart from olive oil, no dried fruit. You try to go for like a Mediterranean style diet with no dairy, no beans, no grains, no caffeine, no processed meat or processed foods. Try to go as organic and natural as possible for 4 weeks. The last 2 weeks, you include things like Roquefort cheese because it's so full of good bacteria and yeasts. It's really good to reseed all your good bacteria in your gut. So it's really good to have as a secondary part the last 2 weeks of a gut makeover, as far as I've understood. And I found it's one of the only cheeses. I mean, I've got Roquefort now. I mean, I literally only have unpasteurized cheese, so you know I've got sort of like some Roquefort there. This deluxe reserve Gruyere, unpasteurized Gruyere that I'm having as well at the moment, and the Camembert. These are about the only unpasteurized cheeses I can find. Out of all the supermarkets everywhere around where I live, it's like I live in a town of 100,000 people, and they're the only cheeses I can find that are unpasteurized, and they're all so much more digestible. I can digest them fine, whereas any other sort of cheeses, they cause me real health problems. So I've realised that it's I only eat unpasteurized cheese. If you want to be healthy, if you want to digest it and enjoy it properly, only use unpasteurized. Yeah, I know it's a problem where a lot of people live. You can't. It's really hard to get unpasteurized. I mean, it is here as well. It took me a while to find out about unpasteurized milk, and I haven't had any for a couple of years. But I was getting unpasteurized goat's milk from a farm about 8 miles away, and it's quite. I have to walk out there. I mean, I could get a bus, but it's expensive. I haven't got a lot of money, so I tended to walk out there. It's a long walk. It's like 4 hours for there and back. But it's really good. I don't really get on with dairy that much, but I do like cheese. And having unpasteurized goat milk, good quality organic unpasteurized goat milk, was an eye opener. You know, it did really make me feel a lot healthier and a lot more energy, and feel like I'm growing more. You know, it's got growth hormones and stuff in there, and it was really powerful stuff. But I don't know if I want to have it too often. You know, I probably might want to have it again in the future. I was making it into kefir, and it was really good. You know, really powerful. It's just a long walk to get out there, and I don't know. I got this. This is the Gruyere. This one. This is really good as well. It's just really nutty smell. It smells like socks that haven't been worn so much as the camembert, but it still smells a bit like sweaty, sort of like feet. Socks that have been worn a couple of days too long, you know. But the flavour is like, when you eat it, it's just sweet and nutty. Lots of complex flavours there again. Almost like that slight hint of like well cured leather, maybe. It's difficult to sort of like pinpoint these complex flavors because they're so complex, but there's sweetness, so you've got sort of like berry flavors almost creeping in there. Reminiscent of like sweet spices a bit, but nothing really that sticks out, you know. It's just sort of like lots of subtleties that blended in a nice leathery sort of smell, kind of sort of like flavor. It's really hard to pinpoint anything specific, but you got this sweetness and the sort of nuttiness. That's the main sort of flavors that come out. I mean, it smells, yeah, like sweaty feet, sweaty socks. The Roquefort, it's not open at the moment, and it's going to keep for a couple of months still. So I've got no plans to open it. I just like to have it in the fridge when I want it. Yeah, using Roquefort, you want it like having small amounts in a salad. So about 25 grams in a salad with some olive oil, but plenty of green like leafy vegetables, maybe some tomato and some I don't know, some fennel, some slightly steamed fennel, bulb, artichoke hearts, I don't know, but just give it like a flavor. Have it like not a normal salad, but with just a little bit, you know, a little small bit of Roquefort. It's always very salty. Roquefort is, you know, it's always very, very salty compared to other cheeses. But you want to have it with like plenty of olive oil, plenty of green vegetables, and maybe something a bit succulent and sweet, like some tomato or maybe some cooked pepper. Some avocado probably goes nicely there, you know. But yeah, use a few times a year in a nice salad. It can really help your digestion and, you know, improve your gut biome. So it's one of those important things. The Reserve Goya, I just like it. I just like the flavour. So it's really nice as a sort of special treat, you know, to sort of like, sometimes you just want something. Maybe it's not that good for you. It's not got that much goodness in it, but it's good to have as something to just make you feel good about yourself and enjoy life, you know, to make you just appreciate life more. That's something it's worth even having something that's not necessarily very good for you, but it's worth having because it makes you feel better about life. And it's worth having for that reason. Same with beer and cigarettes, you know. They're worth having, even if they're not very good for you. They're worth having because they make you feel good about life, you know. And that's more than any good medicine is going to do for you, you know. That's why I like to have this Goya. It just makes you feel good about living, you know. It's so nice and tasty. The Reggio Parmigiano, this is good for gut bacteria. It's got loads of good bacteria in there. It's really good for you. I'm afraid if you can't get it in the US and Scandinavia, I'm just sorry. You need to become like Dracula and Batman combined, and get the dairy mafia, and like get some of them hostage and torture them a bit, you know, and make them legalize it, you know. Find out what's important to them and threaten it, you know. Bully them, make them give in to your will, you know. I don't know. The other thing the other dairy products I've got is that I really am pretty impressed with is this unpasteurized salted butter. It's from France. It's £2.50. About a year ago, right, you could get a block of butter, like pasteurized butter, cheap pasteurized butter, for about 75p, you know, and that's really cheap compared. And the prices went up; they nearly doubled. Now the cheap butter is about £1.40. This is £2.50. It's the most expensive butter I can find, more or less. But it's unpasteurized. There's only one shop in the town where you can buy it. There's only a small little section. There's a huge section of butter. This is just one little block of butter on there. It seems hardly anyone knows about it. I've told a few people about it, but nobody seems to buy it. That I've told. It's incredibly useful for omega oils. Instead of having like a oily fish, you can have unpasteurized butter. Just have bread and butter. It's wonderful, you know. And it digests really well. It makes your brain work better. You know, it's a little bit more expensive than normal butter, but it's unpasteurized, and you're getting like so much more goodness that it's priceless. It's priceless, really. It's like, this is what I found with this unpasteurized stuff. Oh, my heart goes out to you in these countries where you can't get this stuff. I mean, I searched around. You might find, if you search around and ask around, you can find that you can get this stuff. Talk about it. Search around. Ask for it, because if you start talking about it more, that will have an effect, and it will start making it available to you. You know, just look how great look how handsome I am. You know, just, you want to be like this, right? You want to be handsome like me. You need dairy products that are unpasteurized. I just had to try it. Sorry, I thought it would be fun. I can just see, in the astral plane, I can see you looking all really depressed and like slanty-eyed, looking at me. That's where I get mine. Most of my stuff is from Lidl, shiny based. You know, Lidl is the best place for me to get cheese by far. You know, I only get my Camembert from somewhere else. All my other cheese comes from Lidl. I get 4 types of cheese from Lidl and 1 type from another place. Lidl is the best place to get cheese. Yeah, the Lidl where I get my cheese, they do a really good brie de Meaux. It's called brie de Meaux. And it's really good brie. It's like a little triangle of brie, Similar sort of shape to this one, you know. And it's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. It's so creamy, such a good, nice texture. I'm so glad that I've discovered unpasteurized dairy products, especially butter and cheese. It makes such a huge difference. You know, I just wonder how I ever got by on pasteurized dairy products. I had so much bloating problems and problems with my digestion before, and I don't really want to eat dairy products much anymore, really. But if you're gonna eat them, if you want to eat them, wean yourself off dairy products by using unpasteurized dairy products. You know, I know that people, you can if you really work at it, you can find farms that will give you unpasteurized dairy products. You just have to look out, you know, do some research, you know, ask around. I'm sure you can find them. There'll be someone, even if it's illegal, you know, you're better off finding it. I'm not saying you should agree with me online and say, yeah, I'm going to go for the illegal stuff. But if you ask around discreetly, you should be able to find someone, because it's perfect everywhere. It's legal for people to make their own unpasteurized dairy products. So you just have to find someone that will sell you it without the sort of bureaucracy being involved and that, without the government being involved. So you're just basically buying it off some family that's going to just give it to you out of the goodness of their heart and exchange it for something. Maybe you can barter it with them. Maybe you can do some work for them and get some dairy products in exchange that have not been pasteurized. But they must be there. You know, there's going to be some somewhere that you can get. And it's really worth checking it out, even just to get a taste of it, so that you know, so that you can educate your palate and your enzymes and your body to know what unpasteurized is compared to pasteurized. You know, it's worth doing it. It's worth doing it. It's part of the work. You know, it's to know how to look after yourself, look after the body. The body's the temple of the spirit. So you've got to look after the body. And that means giving it the best possible food. I try to avoid anything that's going to cause me any harm whatsoever, as much as possible. You know, really, you know, within reason. You know, I still consume things. I mean, this has got sulfites in it. This wine, they're not good for me. You know, but how else can I get wine? You know, the wine without sulfites from the health food shop is 2 or 3 times the price, and it tastes awful. Whereas this tastes nice, and it's 3 times cheaper. So I'm going to drink this and just try to not. That's why I drink beer, so I'm not drinking sulfites all the time. So I move from beer and to wine and to cider, and occasionally spirits, because spirits are much cleaner. Yeah. Yeah, I'm online. I'm quite happy to be online again. It's been 2 months and I didn't know if I was able to get back on again. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, sweet and nutty. Yeah, a lot to be said for sweet and nutty. Okay. I kind of want to carry on because I just feel like I should shut it down because I don't want to waste people's time. But I know most people are wasting their time anyway. So I feel like carrying on for another hour, maybe. You know, I might not be putting that much input in. I might be pottering around making roll-ups and drinking wine and that. But yeah, you know, if you don't want to watch, you can always, you know, go and watch something else. In other words, I can't think what to say at the moment. Yeah, but as Shiny Beast, and you was asking about Datura and Jimson weed, yeah, I've been getting on with it really well. I've really been enjoying it. I basically smoke it all the time now. Now I've got it. I've just got this little bit left. I mean, I got 50 grams. It was quite a big bag. I've probably got about 5 or 10 grams left there, you know. So I'm either going to get some more. I've ordered some seeds so I can grow it, you know. I'd rather grow it myself because I don't know how this was grown. I mean, it's a strong drug, you know, and that's why I'm only really, I would only suggest people ever microdose it. I know people in the past have used it. I mean, I don't know how much is known about microdosing, but all you seem to hear on the media is people using large amounts of it, and you very rarely hear anything about people microdosing. But if I was to recommend it, I would say only microdose it. You know, don't use large amounts at all. It's a dangerous plant to use in any large amounts. So if you're going to use it at all, definitely only use extremely small amounts of it. And in that way, I think you're pretty safe. But you know, you've also got to make sure that you haven't got children around that might get hold of it, or other people that might get hold of it that that would use it in a stupid way. You know, so it's like you have to be responsible with these things, because on the other hand, you could say the same about aspirin or paracetamol. So I don't know why these things have been demonized. I mean, aspirin hasn't been demonized. It's just as lethal as Datura or belladonna, you know, and so is paracetamol. You know, there's loads of chemicals in our environment that are lethal if you consume them. So why should Datura be demonized? Whereas in small amounts, it's a really useful plant. I mean, just for some people, aspirin's really useful in small doses, you know, for heart problems and that, just because it thins the blood. Yeah, I mean, how many people take aspirin compared to how many people take Datura? I think Datura is probably more beneficial than aspirin. But I bet a lot less people take it. Hardly, you know, it must be like 100 to 1 at least. Probably more like 10,000 to 1. I bet there's 10,000 people who use aspirin compared to every one person that uses Datura. And Datura is probably safer and more beneficial, I would expect. That's just me, though. You know, I don't know for sure. That's just my opinion. Oh, I'm getting low on Datura as well. It's running out. I don't know. Yeah. It's a nice herb though. I felt really relaxed and just sort of like, you know, in a good mood, just more relaxed. It's difficult to say exactly what it does, but I just generally feel better and more relaxed and more happy with myself, you know, from smoking Datura. I'm just more content in myself, you know. I'm not worried too much about making videos or how I come across. So I'm just, you know, I'm really enjoying having loads of different like herbs that I've got at my disposal. All these like medicinal mushrooms and other herbs that I can use whenever I want to. I'm using them very regularly. I'm using quite a lot of herbs regularly, and I just feel the benefit from it, you know. I just feel like I've got more potential. It's opened up doorways in my life so that I feel like I can live longer. I've got more potential. I'm more relaxed. I enjoy life more. You know, you should be jealous of this, but you don't need to be jealous because you can go and explore these things yourself. You know. I'm basically of a generous nature. If I had loads of money, I'd give it to people, but I haven't, you know. I'll give you knowledge instead, you know. Oh, that's something. I'm interested in childhood memories, you know, getting to know people. Um, so, what are your childhood memories that stick out for you that you don't mind sharing with people? You know, um, have you got childhood memories that like just really like stick with you, and that you don't know why, but they've really made a lot of impact in you, and you think about them quite often from time to time. Yeah, oh, that memory. Yeah, I always remember that. I don't know why, but I always remember it, right? Okay, I'm going to come up with a few of them as well, right? So the first one that comes to mind, so I find this really interesting. So I'm just imagining, I can't remember 100% clearly. I imagine I was about 6 years old, and there was a pub, like a bar, public house at the bottom of the road where I lived in, and called the Stag. Um, and around the side of the building there was an apple tree, and I remember one autumn, so it probably would have been around October. As I say, I would have been about 6 years old, 5 or 6, and there was all the apples were not ripe on the tree. They all were green and hard, and I'd already tried a couple of them, right? Because you know, we used to call it scrumping when I was a kid. We go scrumping for apples at that time of year, and we would pick apples from people's garden. We'd climb over the fences, go and pick the apples from people's garden, and we would get free food, right? So lots of kids used to do it. So this particular tree, right down the bottom of the road where I lived, all the apples were green and hard and really bitter. But at the top of the tree, there was this apple that was hanging there. It looked really, really red, right red and ripe. And I just thought that apple must be the sweetest apple, you know. So I tried climbing up the tree, and the tree was reasonably tall. You know, it was probably about 5 or 6 meters tall. So I climbed up, and it was hard work because it was this apple was right at the top of the tree, and so it was hard work to get there, and it was like it was dangerous. You know, the top branch that it was on was leaning over. So as I was climbing up it, you know, it was like I was worried that it was going to snap. So I was trying to lean out as far as I could to get this apple, and eventually I got it. It was after a lot of work. It probably took about 15 minutes to get it, you know. So I finally got this apple, and I got it down, and I got it, and it had a maggot in it, you know. And I thought, maybe the apple isn't got maggots all the way through it. So I had a bite into it, but actually it was maggoty all the way through. It was all rotten inside. So all that work was wasted. You know, I don't know the significance of that, but one of the things I think is that sometimes, you know, appearances can be deceiving. You know, and what looks appetizing and good, it often is actually rotten. I've noticed this applies to women sometimes. Some of the women that seem most attractive are actually, if you look underneath and see what's, you know, inside, they're actually like pretty rotten. And you're better off with the women that don't stand out, you know. they're the ones that are like much more pure and wholesome and stuff, you know. Probably. It probably applies to a lot of different things as well. What other memories? Oh, there's some other memories I've got that's like that stand out for various other reasons. My dad used to have a lot of vinyl records, a lot of hippie records and stuff from the 70s and 60s. So I was born in the early 70s. And one day I was about 2 years old, 2.5 years old, maybe 3. My dad decided to explain to me how record players worked. And so he said to me, there's a little needle that like goes in between the grooves of the record, and it sort of reads the vibrations on in the grooves and makes music, right? So the next day I got my dad's records off of his while he was asleep in the morning. Still, I got up really early. I got his records off of his off the sideboard and opened them up, got the records on the floor, and got a nail. I found a nail. Like a sort of like, you know, just a 2 or 3 inch nail. And I thought, right, if I put this nail and I spin it round the discs of the music, I would be able to hear the music, right? So I started going round and round with this nail on these records. And I couldn't hear any music on the first one, so I put it aside. I thought I'd try a different one, so I tried that one. And I went through about 20 or 30 of my dad's records, going round and round with a nail. And of course, because these were all the records that were right at the front of my dad's collection, they were all his favourite records. It's no wonder he spent the rest of his life hating me, you know. But as far as I'm concerned, when I look back on it now, I think he should have took me out. He should have said, I mean, basically, he spent the first 7 years of my life either not doing anything or spending it sitting there in bed. You know, for about 7 or 8 years, my dad used to sit every day in bed smoking the bong, you know. And why would you have kids if you're going to sit every day sitting there smoking the bong? Who do you think you are? You know, who the fuck do you think you are sitting there smoking a bong every day and getting in a bad mood? And you've got kids, just not learning anything, being sent to a fucking dumbed down school system to be traumatized for their life. You know, it's not a human being. It's not human. It's one of God's creations, maybe, but not human. So it's not beyond my judgment. I'm not going to judge him. God can judge that sort of thing. I don't understand it, you know. My dad listened to some good music as well. He had quite good taste in music, you know, and some really interesting friends, you know, that used to come round. Sometimes they would have like spontaneous jams. You know, there'd be somebody on drums, so maybe some bongo drums or some tablas or something, and maybe someone with a bass guitar, and my dad would be on rhythm guitar, and someone singing, someone on a tambourine as maybe, you know, and they would have like jams and sing. Somebody would sing spontaneously. Sometimes it was really amazing. You know, not all the time, but a lot of the time, more than you would think. It was like actually really good music they were producing, you know, spontaneous live music, just a complete jam. Not anything that they were formal that they were following. They would just make wonderful music, and it'd be really interesting. They knew this, and they started recording it, and they did make some interesting recordings. You know, some really interesting music. You know, that was good music. A few tunes were really good tunes. I remember them still. You know, and they used to get listened to. You know, it was really interesting. There was some really interesting. Good experiences. Going back, because I've been going on about the good experiences again. I just want to mention some of the bad experiences again. I remember my mum and dad arguing over and over and over again. My dad would get really angry because my mum wouldn't make tea properly. You know, he'd tell her how to make the tea, and she would somehow do something wrong, and it wouldn't be perfect. And my dad would get really, really angry and shout and rave for hours afterwards, you know, or at least half an hour or an hour, you know, a long time. He would be really angry for a long time. And I used to wonder, why, if he's so worried about the tea being made properly, because this would go on for like months and years, literally years. It went on for years. I remember day after day after day, for months and years on end, my dad would be angry about the tea not being made properly, and the toast, you know, the grilled bread with marmalade and butter on it. You know, it wasn't hot still. It wasn't hot enough. The tea wasn't strong enough. It was too strong. You know, it didn't have enough milk. You know, there was not enough sugar. You know, it was just endless fucking criticisms. He was mad. He was completely insane, and he was just making everyone's lives miserable from being in a really bad mood and getting really angry every fucking day. And it was like, you know, I was absolutely convinced, and I still am, that if he'd wanted to not be angry, he could have done something about it. Either made the tea himself. When he realised my mum was not very good at making tea and toast, then just make it himself. Solves the problem. But no, he'd have to go on for 5 or 6 years, keep rowing and being angry at my mum and getting in a really bad mood and shouting at everyone and smashing things up and getting really, really stressed out, when there should have been a simple solution to it. And he used to do this with everything he found. He'd always find something to get in a really bad mood about and blame everyone. You know, we had people staying with us who, after a few months, they would say to him, look, I think you've got a brain tumor. I can't live here anymore. You're too stressful to live around. But for me, that wasn't an option. I didn't know that I could just leave. You know, it didn't seem to be possible. So I was stuck there with this mad person getting really angry over every stupid little thing. You couldn't possibly understand why anyone would get so angry about just these silly little things. But he would get so angry, really, really angry and vengeful and really in an extremely bad mood. I'm still traumatized from it. You know, it was so draining. He was a monster to me. You know, his son, he's in his natal chart. His son is exactly where my Pluto is. He's like the devil to me. You know, it's in our astrology. His Mercury and Jupiter, 7 degrees Virgo. My Mercury, 7 degrees Pisces, exactly opposite. My Jupiter, 6 3/4 degrees Sagittarius, square, you know, judging it all in the middle. Sagittarius in Jupiter in Sagittarius, where it's supposed to be judgment. I spent my whole childhood judging this battle going on between his Mercury and Jupiter and my Mercury and Pisces. Mercury is exalted and rules in Virgo, is detriment and falls in Pisces. So my mind is like a dead fish, and his mind is like a living golden eagle, you know. But to compensate for that, I've got my Jupiter in Sagittarius, and I've also got Venus in Capricorn, the morning star, very good intuition. So, you know, that's what compensated for it. And that's kind of made me a lot to do with why I am like I am. I've had so much criticism. I had to deal with so much criticism as I was growing up, and I've had to use my intuition to sort of overcome it. So I've found all different ways, all sort of like strange, different ways to sort of overcome all the sort of persecution I've had throughout my life. Alcohol and smoking, the cannabis. I used to smoke a lot of cannabis, cut down a lot. I'm constantly looking for different things. So someone gave me some mushrooms the other day, well, a few months or so ago. Red and white mushroom. Oh yeah, I can smell it. It smells like vagina. It's this red and white mushroom, right? It dried it out like I ground it up into powder. Smells like vagina. Oh dear. What else have I got here? Ah, yeah. There's another, like, oh, this other mushroom I've got here. Some sort of Mexican type mushroom. You know, I don't know what the exact name of it is, but I've been eating them from time to time, and they seem to be okay. They're dried. I haven't tried the vagina smelling mushroom yet. I'm thinking I probably should have it soon. I'm not sure about the legality of it, you know. Mushrooms, it's like difficult to know. I don't know if you know how to find out, you know, about the legality of them. I don't trust Wikipedia, you know. The law to me is like it's basically the mafia, organized criminals. So I don't trust them. I don't trust laws. You know, I don't trust anyone or anything really. I don't even trust my own instincts and intuition, but that's all I've got to go on. I think sometimes it makes mistakes. I'm constantly trying to make things more accurate, you know, knowing make sure I know what I'm doing. But I don't even know how to do that. Does anybody know what's going on? Oh, Datura and Belladonna. What have you been doing? Watching my old earlier videos. Okay, hot retarded chicks and shiny beast. You're both talking about microdoses of belladonna or datura. I'm talking about like the size of a match head, right? The size of a match head. If you get it in your fingers and scrimp it up, mix it in like into a cigarette with tobacco. That's how much you should use for one dose. About the size of a match head to start with, to get used to the dose. You know, if you can't notice anything, increase it to 2 matches heads. You know, something like that. But use extremely small amounts. If you're using the dried leaves of these plants and you're smoking them, that's probably the safest way to use them, so that you're not going to risk any harm to yourself. So you have to experiment and find what your dosage is, what your acceptable dosage is. I really recommend starting, if you're going to do these things, to try if it's legal where you are, or if you can go somewhere where it's legal to use cannabis, use a very strong, pure strain of sativa cannabis, cannabis sativa, a very strong, potent cannabis sativa, and use like about 10 parts cannabis to 1 part datura stramonium and 1 part Atripla belladonna. Maybe 20 parts cannabis sativa to 1 part belladonna and 1 part datura. Very, very small doses. You don't need much. Your body has to just recognize it, and it will start automatically going in the other direction. So if datura is trying to make you delirious, it will make you more together. If belladonna is trying to kill you, it will make you feel more alive. But you just want to use the very, very smallest doses that you can, that is going to have an effect, you know, and then adjust it accordingly. But you know, these are the safest ways to use these drugs. If children eat the 2 or 3 of the berries of belladonna, that can kill a child. You know, a couple of berries can kill a child. So maybe 10 or 15 berries would kill an adult. So the leaves, you probably have to eat a few handfuls of leaves to kill you. But just smoke. What you want to do is smoke dried leaf, just an extremely small amount, about a fraction of a leaf. You know, a very tiny amount of a leaf, very, very small amounts. So there shouldn't be any risk of any harm to you at all. You should only be using extremely small amounts, just until you notice the effect. You know, you should have a little bit of room to maneuver. Well, that mushroom was nice. I've been microdosing with these mushrooms for a while now, since like a few months. Not every day, but just now and again. And they are really cool. You know, I really like them. I had another thing. I had like a couple of, let me just think. About 18 months ago, I tried, I was on a course, one of these government courses, because I was on benefits and stuff. Well, I'm still on benefits, but you know, I was on one of these courses, and because they basically push you to go on these courses, whether you want to go on them or not. And because they give you a choice of courses, I went on a survival course. I thought, yeah, survival course, I'd be like Ray Meir or something, you know. So I went on it. It was full of like loads of paperwork. I hated it. The paperwork was a nightmare. It really stressed me out. Really, really stressed me out. But the actual like stuff that when you're out in the wild was really good. You know, it was really enjoyable. I learned to make a fire with like you know, a flint and steel, you know, and some fluffy stuff from the wild and that. I was the advanced kid, you know. Everyone else was using like Vaseline and cotton wool to get their fire going. I used everything from the wild, and I still got my fire going. I was the only person who's done it. You know, out of about 10 or 15 people, I'm the only person who actually made a fire from wild stuff, you know, natural stuff. But while I was there, I saw there was a little stream, right, running through the course where we was on in the field we were in, and there was this plant. It looked like coriander, and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. I'll try some of that. I just ate a few leaves, and it tasted okay. I thought, man, that's okay. And I went to the person running the course. I said, one of the people running the course, and I said, do you know what that plant is that looks like coriander? Because I just ate some, you know. And they said, oh, that was probably hemlock water drop wort. It's very, very poisonous. And so I said, are you sure it's really poisonous? Because it tastes okay. I went over and they come over with me and I picked a bit more, you know, just a few leaves. And I ate another bit and chewed it up and I thought, oh, it tastes okay. And they said, no, that's hemlock water drop wort. That's one of the most poisonous plants in the UK. And so I went home and I've done some research, and it turns out it's the most poisonous plant in the UK and in the whole of North America. It's the most poisonous plant. And so I went home. I looked it up and found out all this stuff and what it does. So I realized I was poisoned myself, right? So I find out what it does. It's a higher alcohol, and when it gets into your system, it starts making you lose electrolytes. So I went and got some lamb's kidneys and some like spinach and stuff, and all stuff that's got loads of minerals in it, you know, and just add loads of food that's got loads of minerals to sort of like counteract it. I was drinking like coconut water. But even that, it was like for a couple of days I felt ill, you know. I felt like I got a bit like the flu, but without the sort of like blocked sinuses. But my just body felt like tired and drained, you know. I was really tired and stressed, like I poisoned myself, you know. So I got through it. After a few days, you know, I started feeling better again. So I wouldn't recommend it, but what it taught me, getting in contact with some of these plants from the wild, like poisonous plants, is that I'm more aware of poisons now. You know, I'm more aware. My body has been trained better to deal with poisons. I really want to emphasize: don't eat this stuff because it's poisonous. It's really, really poisonous. But if you are, then speak to the plant first and make sure that you're getting a good answer back and know that what the right dosage is. And the right dosage should just be 1 or 2 little leaves, not anything more than that. If it's more than 1 or 2 little leaves, you're not following. You've got a bit crazy. Don't eat more than a few leaves, and even that is still dangerous. You know, if for a child or someone of small build and weak immune system, that could be fatal. So I'd not recommend it at all. But the only benefit is that I did feel very like shortly afterwards that I was more alive. It's got that thing where it's like a microdose. It's a very, very deadly poison. So you take a little tiny bit and you feel more alive. It's like your body is pushing you in the other direction. The herb is sending you in one direction that you're going to die, and your body sends you back in the other direction further so that you feel more alive. But it took a few days for it to work. You know, it's a very, very deadly poison. So if you're taking these things in small doses, be very careful. Use the smallest dose possible. And if it doesn't work, increase it very, very slightly. and wait a day or two before you increase it. Don't rush it. These things take time, and the more dangerous something is, the more careful you have to be with it. This is entertainment. This is not an educational video, so I'm just telling you. I'm just trying to give you the basics. Don't mess around with this stuff if you're not sure what you're doing. Be very, very careful. They can be extremely valuable, these things, if you're the right person to deal with them, if you deal with them in the right way. But they're extremely dangerous. They can be extremely dangerous. I've heard of children dying from rubbing hemlock water drop wort on their skin, just the leaves, rubbing on their skin and then dying from it. So they haven't even eaten it. They just rubbed it on their skin and they died from that. So that's how dangerous these things can be. So be extremely careful. When it comes to Datura and Belladonna and smoking them, you're literally talking about very, very tiny amounts, like the size of a match head. That sort of size. The size of a cannabis seed. That's about how much you want to use in a smoke. The size of a cannabis seed. A little tiny, like a 1 square centimeter piece of leaf, like rolled up and smoothed into a joint with some cannabis sativa. That would be adequate. That should be adequate for a good way of checking it out. But that's about as much as you want to try. That should be more than enough to give you a good effect. If you're using those things together, if you're using the Datura stramonium and Atropa belladonna, about a square centimeter of the leaf in a spliff together with a reasonable size amount of cannabis sativa, so probably 10 or 15 times more cannabis than either Datura and belladonna, then you'll get the effect of, like, you're really together, you're really full of life, you're really on it, and your brain's working really perfectly, and you're just totally on it, and you can fight like 10 tigers. That's what it's supposed to do, and that's what it does do. If you use it correctly and you're very careful and use it properly, it does what it does. It's a really, really extremely powerful, beneficial herbal concoction that almost nobody knows about or ever tries, but it's actually there for anybody to use, and is incredibly powerful, and can turn you into almost like a god overnight. So there you have it, from the horse's mouth. Okay, I've answered all those questions. I think I'm going to call it a day now. Thanks for watching, you guys. I hope I'm going to carry on, be able to make more videos. It's been interesting having a few months break. I've enjoyed your chatting and your questions, HRC and Shiny Beast. So yeah, have a good blessings upon you all. Yeah, thanks, HRC.